G'day, Justin Hogg from RightSource, talking budgets. And we've talked a lot about mechanics of budgets, and there's a lot of mechanical stuff. You can talk about the technical side of budget, should you do one or not. No, you don't need to do one, FYI. And that's great. There's a lot of data, spreadsheets, templates, cool. What I wanted to talk about today was actually how would I do a budget? So best case scenario, how do I think a budget should be done, and the right way, if you like. And this is equally applicable to if you're a small business, just yourself running it, through to a $100 million company. The process is the same, I think, in how you should run a budget process, how you set your budget for the year. So let's start. So how would I start a budget process? The first thing I would do is make sure you're clear on your goals. There's nothing to do with numbers, the first step. First step is, what do you want to achieve? Now, I mean this both holistically from a big picture point of view, like is it your vision board, is it a business plan, whatever, like where are you going, what are you doing, what do you want to achieve long term? Also, I suppose, an idea of what you want to do, because most budgets I like to do around the year period, so what do you want to achieve in the next year? So your goals, resolutions, whatever, but it's your 12 months goals. Where do you want to be? Be clear on that. That's the good starting point, because then you know where you're going. Okay, so once you've got your goals, the next thing I like to do is start top down. So don't go into the detail, and really this isn't even about how you're budgeting yet. This is about taking those goals and going, okay, what some of the high level financial figures you want to hit. So revenue, margin, turnover, staff, whatever makes, that sort of means something for you in terms of where helps articulate where you want to be in that 12-month period. So do you want to increase revenue? Is it staying the same? Staff, are you changing locations? Those core assumptions around where you want to be at 12 months time, or what you want to happen over this 12-month period. Now, why this is important, irrespective of the business size that you're in, is it helps set that framework. So before you get into the nitty-gritty of doing your budget, you already sort of conceptually know, well, this is the number I want to hit. Doesn't mean you'll hit it, but it gives you something to work towards and a basis, and to check whether your thinking in terms of your goals makes sense, and whether you've missed anything in your budget process. Now, if you're a small business, that can be quite quick in terms of the process. For a large business, it has even more value, because you can then communicate to those others that are in the budget process, okay, we're about to start a budget process, but this is where we want to get to. Now, some people say, well, that's cheating, because you're getting the answer before you start the process. Well, it's not cheating, because it's not necessarily going to be the answer, but it gives people an understanding of where you are going. So it helps communicate that goal, where you're traveling, so that everyone moves in the same direction when they're doing their budget process. The next is, now you start to get into the budget proper. And for this, I would always say, spend your time where it matters most. So where does it matter most for a business? Well, for me, a business won't run unless you sell things. So you need to spend, in my view, most of your budget time focusing on your revenue. Now, when you look at most budget content, it's all talking about costs and how you manage your costs. Your revenue is actually what drives your business. So that's where everything starts. If you're not selling stuff, you're not in business. So to start a budget, you need to say, well, what am I going to sell and how am I going to sell it? For revenue, I tend to prefer doing a zero-based budget, or effectively a detailed budget around your revenue, because you're going to want to look at a lot of different things to understand it. And it's really a part of the business that you should really understand. So you're going to want to look at things like who your current clients are, whether you expect them to continue, or where you're selling, what channels you're selling your goods through, and whether those channels will continue to be at the same levels or not. You're doing different channels. Then also your lead generation. So when you look at how much revenue you want to make for the year, what does that mean in terms of new clients or new channels or new goods? How is that going to get driven in terms of leads? So if you are looking at a client perspective, how many leads do you need to get a new client or a new project? You're going to want to be able to capture that type of information, because that will help understand the drivers of your business, and also what campaigns you want to run, and effectively will then drive your costs. So that's a lot of detailed work on revenue. The other thing with doing that, I don't know if it's subconsciously why we all feel a bit uncomfortable about doing revenue, is that it can be quite confronting. Like if you're like, yes, we're going to grow the business, off we go, and then you start looking at the numbers and go, well, I'm not sure where this is all going to come from. It can be quite scary. So, and a lot of it, especially if you're looking to grow, a lot of it is, well, we're going to do these campaigns, we're going to invest in these channels, we're going to promote these products. It might not work, so you're still hoping it'll work. This is your best guess and this is what you hope will happen. So from that point of view, it can be a little confronting. At the end of that process though, you'll have a clear understanding of where you want the business to drive in the next 12 months. So that's spending your time where it matters most. The other area of your business which matters most is your people. So that's the next area that I would probably do a more detailed budget on, in terms of who's working in the business, who you plan to have working in the business, how much they get paid, bonuses, where you're going to do bonuses, and basically understand the people you have and what they're doing, and do that in a zero-based way, or basically a detailed way. So that way you really understand who's doing the work in your business, who is your business, because your people are your business. So for those two steps, with your revenue and your people, you've really got the heart and soul of your business in terms of what your business is doing and who's doing it and who makes up the business. From there, really, that's the detailed areas. From there, I would tend to use an incremental budgeting approach for your cost of sales as your next step. So look at your cost of sales. You've got your revenue. You've already decided what you're going to sell, where you're going to sell it. To work out then the cost of that is a relatively mechanical process, because you know what makes up your products. And then similarly with overheads, I really would spend, as it sounds a bit odd, I wouldn't spend a lot of time on overheads because they shouldn't change that much. Yes, definitely control your costs and make sure you're on top of your costs, and make sure you're not overspending in terms of money and overheads where you don't need to spend it. But that can be done more operationally on the ground. Budgeting is about setting the benchmark of where you want to be. So if you want to say, well, I wouldn't mind chopping a little bit off my overheads this year, great, take 10% off, put that as your budget. That's all you have to do. You don't need to go into the detail and understand how you're going to do that in the budget process. That can be done operationally during the year in terms of, this is my target, this is what I want to get to, let's work towards getting to it. Once you've got that, you then basically have your P&L budget. You've got your sales, your costs, your overheads, your people are included, that's your budget. You use both a zero-based and incremental to bring that together. Now, there's a couple more steps I'll still add on to here. The next one is build some integrity into it. So what do I mean by that? Well, your P&L is great. That's your performance. Now, whether you can do that and what that performance will end up creating is in your balance sheet. So connecting your budget to also have a balance sheet and a cash flow can be very meaningful and helps make sure that your dreams in terms of your performance are actually able to be met in terms of your capability, in terms of your assets and resources that you have. And it allows you to identify where you may need to go and get some more. So it gives that bit more integrity to what you're doing. The next step is then you've gone through all this work, you've built some integrity in it. Do the numbers actually make sense to you? Because this, at the end of the day, it's your budget. This is your business. If these numbers don't make sense to you, what's the point? So the numbers that you get in the budget need to be meaningful to you, or need to be what you are happy with in terms of a target for the business. Now this comes back to our high level targets that we set at the start. They may not be the same. And this is where a budget process can help you learn in terms of what your business is capable of doing. So you might say, oh, I want to hit a 20% growth for the year, blah, 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 great. You do the budget in terms of what you're planning to do, and it comes out and says, well, realistically, 10 to 15% growth is what's going to be achievable. And what you're comfortable with the budget, well then that's cool. So that's where that high level number then changes, and you need to at some point go, at the end of the budget process, go confirm that they're the numbers that you're hitting for the year. They are the budget, lock them in, they're done. The last step is use your budget. Budget isn't a once a year thing. It should be something you use throughout the year. If you're not going back and reflecting on how your actuals are traveling and how you're traveling in the business based on how you hoped to go or how you budgeted, you'll very quickly come off track, and all that work you've done in the budget actually doesn't have any value. The value is in using it. So in using that budget to help be that signpost to make sure that at the end of 12 months, you've hit the goals, or you're on your track to hit the goals for those 12 months, and you're on track to hit your long-term goals for the business. So that's it. That's how I do a budget from start to finish. Now, as I said, there's a lot of technical stuff we've got on the YouTube channel, and we've done videos on before, so definitely check that out if you want to understand the technical aspects of doing a budget. If you want some help bringing your budget process to the next level, definitely feel free to get in contact. Chuck your details below, put it in the description what you're after, or feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Happy to help you enjoy budgeting and create value to your business, because that's what we're all about. So thanks again for watching, and again, it's Justin Hogg from RightSource. Catch you next time.